Betty, bring me everyone.
What do you mean, everyone?
Everyone! I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Barry Manilow know that you raid his wardrobe?
Let me explain something to you. I am not Mr. Lebowski. You're Mr. Lebowski. I'm the dude.
No one is to stone anyone until I blow this whistle.
You can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Lord, you can imagine where it goes from here.
Hey, welcome back to the Zedos Gang podcast. I am joined by Greg, who has been on the podcast a few times. Say hi, Greg.
Hello, Greg.
And we have Sach, as always. Say hello, Sach.
Hello, Sash.
Fantastic. So we're all here and same. I am Joseph Buchanan, or Jose, depending on who you talk to. Yeah, we've had a bit of a technical issue with sound, as the old thing goes. So yeah, this is going to be a light podcast today, I think. Took me an hour and a half to sort that out. Anyway, let's get straight into it. Sach, what's the news?
What's the news?
Yeah.
What's the news?
What's on your list?
If you don't know, we're in trouble, aren't we? What's the news?
So we all saw the Extraction trailer, right?
Yes.
I actually didn't watch it because I was trying to sort out the sound.
Oh, Joe,
I've got my look. Once you have to sort out the sound, we're all good, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to have a look at it now. What's it called?
Extraction.
Okay.
Extraction.
What did you guys think of it? Talk amongst yourselves while I have a watch of it.
Okay, sure. Watch the trailer. Catch up. Yeah, I think it looks good. Looks like a big fun action romp kind of thing with Chris Hemsworth.
There's only one thing that made me think it might have more substance than it comes across in the trailer. I mean, Chris Hemsworth is always reliable and he's great fun, and obviously he looked like an action dude and stuff. But I see all the sort of like the quick cut editing of the fighting, and it's going to get motion sickness again. It's gone back from it's back more like sort of Taken than it is like John Wick, where it's done in like long takes and stuff. But so I've watched all that, and I'm like, I wouldn't have been ashamed. And then I saw two things that made me go, okay. And that's, I mean, it's got a good cast. I mean, it's got people like David Harbour and stuff like that in there. It's got the Indian fellow who hasn't done much since Heroes. He seems to be in there as a dude in there and stuff. But it's literally the Russo brothers is the bit that's got me interested, because they've done such great things with the MCU, and they've made really good movies like this sort of thing before, like The Winter Soldier and Civil War. So it makes me go, see, with them in control and at the helm, it might be really good. But
well, that's just it. I mean, like, they're not directing this, but it is from a script of theirs. What they've done, basically, since they were with Marvel for so many years and stuff, working on Captain America and Civil War, and equally the two Avengers films, they've literally, because obviously they weren't comic book movie makers before. They did stuff like Welcome to Hollywood. Is it Collinwood? I can't remember. And TV episodes and stuff. And they always went into the movie business to write movies. So since they've made all their money, they've basically started producing a whole load of films that they've written, given them to other directors to direct while they produce, and pick the ones they really want to direct. For example, there's a Tom Holland film called Cherry coming out later on this year, which they directed, funnily enough, and it's got Tom Holland. Yeah, that's the only big name.
It's got Tom Holland. That's it.
No one else. No one worth mentioning anyway.
Are they just picking people from the MCU to work with? So
pretty much.
Robert Downey Jr. or something.
Yeah, pretty much, because last year they did 21 Bridges, which they produced and wrote, which had Chadwick Boseman.
T'Challa, yeah.
T'Challa, and
Yes.
Also, this year they got another film called Relic coming out with Emily Mortimer from what's that Zack Schneider film before he did the DC thing, Sucker Punch. There we go.
Sucker Punch, yeah.
Yeah, and
did you say it's Emily Mortimer in it or Emily Browning or?
Oh shit! I forgot what I said.
You said Emily Mortimer. Emily Mortimer is older than us. She's been in lots of TV and film, and then Emily Browning's one of the youngsters who was like babyface in Sucker Punch.
Maybe I'm getting confused.
You're getting your Emily's confused.
Yeah, I probably got it.
Is she married to John Krasinski? That's the first question. Because different Emily altogether as well.
No, it's definitely not that Emily.
No, of course.
Plus, they have another film coming out this year called Everything, Everywhere, All at Once with Jamie Lee Curtis and Michelle Yeoh. Past Midnight with Keanu Reeves that comes out next year by Rick Famuyiwa. Well, I can't pronounce his name.
but try some more because it's hilarious. What was it again?
Good director. He did an indie called Dope, which came out a couple of years, which was fantastic. And he also directed fifth episode of The Mandalorian.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I've seen the trailer now.
What are your thoughts?
It's all right. It looks decent.
Yeah.
I'm a person that has trouble with Netflix films because it's, I don't know. I don't know. I think Netflix are better at TV shows than they are films at this point. Whenever, I mean, I did see the trailer for this earlier, but I saw the Netflix badge underneath it, and I kind of ignored it. It's not because I don't like Netflix films. I don't think they're good enough yet to match a theatrical release.
So would you say, on that sort of ilk, would you say The Irishman was like a poor movie just because it came out on Netflix rather than in the cinema?
No, not at all. What I would say about that is that if you took Scorsese out the name and everything else and all the everything that's highlighted the film, it's kind of something that passes you by. I think because we're in a different world now, it's a little different. But when I go to work, I always see billboards of films, and there's a prestige to a theatrical release film.
Yeah.
And when you just see something just in the corner of your eye, oh, it's on Netflix. There's so much content on Netflix that you just. It just flies by you. That's the feeling I get from it anyway.
Well, that's the amazing thing is the current situation is changing everyone's way of thinking. It's changing marketing. There's film after film, the Bond film and various other films that are being completely delayed. But other things that we're going to have, like a theatrical release, like the Artemis Fowl is now going to be on Disney Plus straight away. And they're talking about more things going straight to Disney Plus or to Netflix because they need to, recoup some courses, recoup some money, and they can't just all put them on indefinite hold. Now, I understand that Bond, people will go see it as soon as the quarantine's lifted. So if they release it in November, which they're planning to, it should be crazy. But a lot of people can't afford it. So yeah, I think you're going to see more Netflix films, and they are a powerhouse now. They are a massive powerhouse in the film industry as much as anything. So I think it's going to blur the line. I think it's going to be about getting over that personal stigma of like, oh, it's straight to Netflix, and as if that's the same as straight to video or straight to DVD.
Yeah, that's exactly the sentiment I had. It's like, oh, okay, I don't need to. Because I guess it's been built into me over the years that okay, if it's going to VOD straight on demand or whatever, it's maybe later on or something to watch later on, or it doesn't have the push as theatrical films do. And going to your point on the Netflix thing or just online streaming, film streaming online, is that you're kind of being rewired now to, okay, I'm at home. There's a lot more things to what you say. You spend more time looking through things, and it's not something that you just dismiss and put into the background. It's you're paying more attention now, and you're starting to mark out things that you want to watch and you want to see, and it's a different world.
It is a different world, but I think Netflix is only going to go from strength to strength, and Amazon and Disney Plus and all these sort of companies. Obviously, Disney isn't only online, so as much as it might be doing well with Disney Plus, it's also making massive losses by not being able to put things into the cinema and having to delay production on MCU and Star Wars things and what have you. But yeah, it's a crazy world we live in. But yeah, I think it's going to reshape the cinematic world as we know it.
Yeah, there's something I want to touch on after we talk about this, and it's to do with AMC cinemas. But Sach, what did you think of the trailer?
Yeah, I thought it was a solid trailer, to be quite honest. Unfortunately, like all solid trailers, we probably saw the whole film in the trailer, but because it was one of those ones. But aside from that, I think Chris Hemsworth as an action star doing an action role, that's a little different because I'm used to seeing him be more comedic these days. I know he took a first stab at that film Black Hat, which fucking bombed in theaters like a few years back, but
a long time ago. That was a Michael Mann film, right?
Was it a Michael Mann? I don't know. But
it was.
But yeah,
I might be wrong actually.
I thought it was Ron Howard for some reason. It probably is Michael Mann. Black Hat.
One of the things I was saying while you were watching the trailer was the fact that it looks like the fighting's been cut more akin to Taken and those things, that sort of like migraine-inducing sort of choppy motion sickness shit, than the where we actually train the person to fight like John Wick or the Mission Impossible films, where they do longer takes and go fuck it, actually put the effort in, which is a shame because Chris Hemsworth is I've been seeing his fitness videos out there and this and that, and it's like, come on, man, you're ripped, you have muscles on muscles, fucking do the fight training. So,
yeah, I think that's due to who's the guy who did Chad Stahelski and I can't remember the other guy, but
the directors of John Wick,
they really put work into making those longer takes look good, and they should just be used everywhere in Hollywood because that just makes the film look better. It's more believable when that whole that's one thing I hated about the Dark Knight. Or the Dark Knight trilogy is that Nolan loved to cut corners by not showing a full punch or seeing Batman get hit or whatever. It still doesn't.
In the last of the Dark Knight trilogy, there's a rooftop fight with Batman and Bane. and it's before Bane kind of got to them. He was there, but they didn't actually join in the fight. He was just sending his minions along. And there's at least one person who falls over without being hit. And then again later in the same film, they've got someone doesn't take a punch and goes flying. And it's just like, shit, man, continuity should be fired. But I think you're right. I think the guys, I know that they were stunt doubles originally and worked with Keanu Reeves for many, many years and stuff, but they've just shown up the rest of the industry. I mean, I've seen these long segments. I think someone put something on YouTube where they had these massive long segments of John Wick fighting like 14 people or something like that. And then they juxtaposed it against Liam Neeson taking 14 different takes and camera cuts to jump over a fence, and it's just like, for fuck's sake, that was different. It was amazing.
I want to see that.
You've got to see it because it just shows up how ridiculous it is. And in the pace of an action movie, you forget about these things, but when you see it on its own of just these 14 different cuts just to jump over a fence, it's like, fuck, how did anyone think this is a good idea? So.
I love that. I can't wait to watch that. It looks fine. And that's literally all I can say about it. It has all the bells and whistles of a Hollywood, a summer blockbuster.
Yeah.
Even Michael Bay-ish, to a degree.
But here's the thing, going back to what you were saying, and this is where something that might work for it, in the sense that I wouldn't necessarily go to see that. For start, if it wasn't for the fact that I have like a Cineworld subscription, so I pay and go for that. If I didn't know the Russo brothers were involved with it, I definitely would probably go out to go see it. I wouldn't be buying it on Blu-ray or as soon as it comes out, where there are many films I do. So I'd wait for it to come to Netflix to see it. Whereas knowing something like that might be coming to Netflix, I'm really like, I'll probably watch that in the first few days it comes out. So for me, it's the fact that it's coming to Netflix is making me excited, more so because it wouldn't be at the top of my list to go to the cinema for.
Right.
So that way. So
it's suited for the type of format that it's in. It's streaming, like if it was on Amazon or anything else, it's suited for it. Okay, I'll watch this. Yeah, you're not fussed to click on it and watch it. Because you're not making a huge purchase in any way.
No, exactly. It's part of the money I'm spending already every single month, so it's fine. So yeah, that
makes sense actually. Yeah. I'm going to segue into something that I wanted to talk about, which is the possible closures of AMC cinemas in America, and it looks like that might have a domino effect in the industry, because if that chain closes, that's like the biggest cinema chain in America, and so that's all of those screens lost. And it'll again. I don't know who the second biggest chain is, but I was listening to John Campier, and he was saying that if no one steps in, it's going to change. It's going to change the entire landscape, because without the revenue to make the tentpole films that revenue drives from the theatrical releases, then either films will have to greatly reduce the price that they're made for, or that's it. It's good night. The theatre industry. What do you make of that? Do you think anyone's going to step in? Do you think the theatrical is as important?
I think so. I mean, it's hard because we're the generation, where, going to the cinema was still a big thing, so I love that. I want to go see something in the cinema, but I'm also not of that sort of, boomer generation where it's like, I don't understand that streaming services are a thing or what have you. So I realize that things are changing, and I think it's the beginning of having to go with the times, and it will have a knock-on effect, and maybe it will push things more towards looking at Netflix and Amazon and all those sort of things again as equally a viable thing as going to the cinema. But yeah, it's huge. It'll be a shame because I enjoy going to cinema and stuff, but
yeah.
But then as soon as the quarantine is lifted, though, do people, even if you're like, okay, as soon as the quarantine is lifted, are people really going to want to go immediately sit in a crowded room that's stuffy as it is, right next to people basically spitting their popcorn on you and having food and stuff like that? I mean, we're a changed people, so even once everything's okay, that's not the first thing I really want to go do, so it's a different time. So
that was a debate as well. Just the incentive was that they were going to have cinemas open, and they'll have older films from like at the end of last year or the beginning of this year, and the tickets would be free, and people would just come in at their leisure and get used to watching films again.
I see what they're doing there. I see exactly what they're doing there. People come for free film, but the concession stand will be open. And
that's the dichotomy that the studio and the theatre have. They both need each other to survive.
Yeah.
In that sense, if they want to continue making the money that they're making at the level that they're making it, then they have to help each other.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's dead.
I mean, I personally think someone will come in for AMC. It might be a competitor.
They were saying Amazon.
I think that it could be Amazon. It could be Amazon. I don't see why not. I mean,
Disney can't afford it.
Well, Disney wouldn't be allowed.
No, they are allowed. They just can't afford it. No,
they're not.
They can, but no. So what it is, they can buy stock, and they can let the. So if they buy stock, it's all explained on John Campion's show.
Okay. I'll tell you why I say that's baloney, because Warner Brothers, even though they owned a cinema chain, the terms and conditions behind Warner's owning cinemas themselves were that they couldn't do so domestically. If you went to America, Warner Brothers theaters never existed out there the whole time. You had AMC, you had Showcase, and you had ABC, and you had I can't remember the other chain, but there has never been a Warner Brothers cinema there. All their Warner Brothers cinemas, they were always worldwide. England, Japan, Spain, and those were the only 3 countries with Warner Brothers cinemas. So Disney being able to do that, that's counterproductive, because it's more of a monopoly on the theatre chains, because the reason why they wouldn't allow Warners to do that is because if you think about it, what's there for Warners to go, we're just going to show WB movies?
Yeah, I understand that, and that was explained. Yeah. And again, what they were saying was to buy shares in the company so they could keep the operation costs flowing. I don't know exactly how that works, but that's what was talked about. Amazon would be under the same pressure because they would have a monopoly.
Yeah, you're right.
What you might see as a knock-on effect is if the cinemas and AMC does keep running and things like that, I think for at least a few years, I think you're going to see a lot more smaller, independent, and certainly studio backed but smaller projects coming out than some of the big blockbusters, because who can afford to put $300 million into making and marketing if you're not guaranteed that there's going to be bums and seats for a while. So I think you're going to see a lot of blockbusters, sort of be panned and sort of scrapped, and I think you're going to see more sort of quirky, smaller films, still talking about, sort of 10, 20, even sort of $40 million and stuff like that. But all in, we're not talking about $300 million because there's less risk and stuff. So I think you're going to see that. And then that again, and I know we've mentioned them a lot because it's kind of just because it's relevant in this current crazy crisis, that people like Netflix and Amazon are more likely to be putting on these big blockbusters because they're not trying to make it for cinematic release at all anyway. Yeah. So and they've got money to burn at the moment. So everyone's inside doing online Amazon shopping and watching Amazon. So they're,
Yeah. So. It's going to be interesting how I think because another analyst said that the theatre will be for very high-end spectacle, like the Avengers or something. And Amazon would be for like your mid-tier action, just above mid-tier action films and indie films and all sorts of films. But the cinema will be like left for Avatar 2.
Well, I certainly hope cinema exists. It's been there all my life, and I still enjoy going to the cinema. So I certainly hope it exists. But
so do I. There's only as big a TV you can have in your house to replicate that feeling of being there. And I would, unless James Cameron just rolls the dice. There you go, holographics. That's your new theater. That you can't replicate that in your home. You can't stream it. holographics is the way forward. If James Cameron does pull that out of his head, which I'm pretty sure he will at some point. Who knows? But
all I know is I think there is going to be a massive change soon, and if it starts going one way or the other, I just know that the company is going to have to make sure they're backing the right horse, because otherwise it's going to be akin to, I don't know, Kodak, who invented the digital camera and then decided to go, no, that'll never take off, we'll stick with film. Or Blockbuster, who turned down a bid to buy Netflix early on, or this sort of stuff. So one hopes that if it does look like it's going streaming, that people like... And I would have, go back, if it had gone back 6 months, I would have gone, well, I'd hope people like the Marvel films would then still be available on Netflix, Amazon. But that's irrelevant now, because obviously with Disney Plus, they could make them for that, and people would go, well, we want to see this. And, so... Yeah.
Disney Plus. Have you got Disney Plus, Greg? Or
yeah, I've got Netflix, Amazon, and Disney Plus. I used to have Now TV as well, but I got rid of it. I got a bit bored of that, but I've got 3 of them. So so I'm well set up for the quarantine. I've got most of the consoles, gaming PC, and all the streaming services. So whoop.
whoop whoop. Okay. So I've got that over the bridge. You wanted to talk about West Side Story.
No, that's when we had Anand coming in. But
I love West Side Story. Can't wait for it to come out. Spielberg, I take my hat off to you.
West Side Story, I got nothing.
See, now this is interesting. You say that. I'm as a heterosexual man, I think I'm as in love as musicals as any person I know. I absolutely love musicals. I used to do musical theatre. I've trained in musical stuff. I've absolutely loved musicals, but I've never been as big a fan as West Side Story as most people. And it's like, I think it's great. It's not one of my favourite things. I like Shakespeare, so I like the fact that this Romeo and Juliet to music, but it's just like, it's not one of my favourite musicals. I'm more excited about them, filming the version of Wicked that's going to come out or stuff like that. I wasn't bothered about Cats, and I used to work for Cats. I used to work at Cats. I used to be the person who used to drop the boot down and load Mr. Mistopheles into the spring trap and this and that, and I had no fucking desire to go see that. So yeah, I mean, as much as I love musicals,
terrible, man.
But then once again, like the Russo Brothers, it's Steven Spielberg, and that guy, just anything he touches turns to gold. He's awesome. So I think I'd go see it for that. Yeah,
that's I kind of grew up. I was at a young age when I saw West Side Story, and it used to come on TV all the time. And I've got like multiple copies of sections of it on VHS, and so when I'm fast forwarding through, there's a bit of that, and then when I eventually saw the whole film, it was almost like nostalgic, but at the same time, I don't know. I really, there's something about it that I really like. I don't know if it's my nostalgia hit, but it's not that, because I really I've seen it multiple times now, and I don't know what it is about the film, but I really enjoy it. And so if Spielberg has went, I want to do that, there's something to it. And as you said, anything he touches turns to gold. And I'm just dying to see his rendition of some of the things that he may have taken from the 1950s version and put into this new one. I know he's got one actress from that version that's in his one.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm well up for it. I can't wait to see it.
I mean, I think in the case of history of cinema, there's never been a more reliable director than Steven Spielberg. From Jaws onwards, he hasn't really done a duff film. There's no, we were talking off air beforehand about Nicolas Cage, who's literally flip-flops between genius and just dire turds of petulant shite. But Steven Spielberg, it's like even his bad films are pretty good. There's not a bad one there. So yeah, he is the Midas of the modern day of sort of directing. So
I haven't seen 1942 that Spielberg.
Apparently that's meant to be absolutely phenomenal. It's meant to be amazing.
The one with James Belushi and Dan Aykroyd.
I've not seen that yet.
You know what? It was on Netflix when Netflix first came out. And I watched it, and you know what? I thought it was okay.
No, I think it's meant to be okay. It's not one of his more famous ones, but
it does have a scene with Christopher Lee where he does the in Raiders where the guy gets the nunchucks and turns into that was actually from that film, but he put it in. He reused that idea in Raiders.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, I got this. Can you see this?
Oh wow!
Someone got that.
Is it in there?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm coming up to it.
Okay.
It's got Duel, Jurassic Park, Close Encounters. Oh gosh, the Sugarland Express.
Jaws. Oh, the Goldie Hawn one, yeah.
Yeah. Jaws, obviously. And 941 is the next one I've got to watch.
Right.
Do you know what? I've never seen it. I know it's, people forget that he did that one.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Apparently.
But no, I'd be interested.
I don't think it's a bad movie. I just think no one saw it. It was a flop.
Right.
Yeah.
But, I mean, yeah. I guess I'll see in a bit. Yeah, but West Side Story. Whoop.
No, I'd go see. Even though it's not one of my favourite musicals, and I wouldn't necessarily be, chomping at the bit to go see a new West End version of it. Ironically, I'd probably, and that's normally, where musicals are their best. I've seen filmed version of musicals and this and that, but it's never the emotion of seeing it live. And yet, this might be the one thing that, because it's Steven Spielberg doing it, that I'd probably rather go see that than a new, National Theatre version or sort of West End version or Cameron Mackintosh version of West Side Story. So, yeah, he might be the ingredient that gets me there to the cinemas or to Netflix or to Amazon.
Yeah, with the way the world is now, probably so. Sach, what have you? God, the feedback on this is weird. What other news do you have?
The Others. They're remaking The Others, the old Nicole Kidman film.
It doesn't make sense. It works. It's like remaking Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
So,
or The Usual Suspects.
You can never remake that.
Exactly. It's sacrilegious.
So Septian Entertainment has scored the remake rights to The Others starring Nicole Kidman. The plan is to reinvent and modernize the story and a new take.
Modernize it? Why?
Has reportedly already attract significant interest from A-list talent and studio backers.
Basically their way of saying we know that we can't do the same twist, so we're going to do a shitter one with a shitter movie with people who've actually signed on to it thinking it'd be good. Well, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You don't. It's a classic. It's not up there with The Usual Suspects and Sixth Sense, which are the next level of amazing. But the twist was brilliant. It's as twists go and stuff. It's absolutely iconic, and it's so well acted. And I think that'd be a crying shame for them to remake that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Nicole Kidman is a name. Why would you? Who? I don't get it. I
understand the remaking of things if it's like the Japanese market, so you're making all these, the grunge and things where the American audience hasn't necessarily seen it, so they don't know what's going on, don't know the plot. But if it's an American release, and we're not talking about remaking Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street, we're talking about something from the late 90s, early 2000s at the very latest.
2003.
Yeah, so
2001.
Yeah, so. It's not that old in the scheme of things.
No.
Or are we just so old that 19, 20 years old is actually really old now? We're just
it's 20 years old.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Well, look at Back to the Future, right? tooth and nail, people said, "Oh, we should remake that." Not over my dead body.
Fuck no. although, and I'm not arguing devil's advocate for this one at all.
Okay.
But I go check out on YouTube the deep fakes where they did.
I saw that.
Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr. and it was actually really well done. I'm not an advocate for it being remade. It is a classic. It is my childhood incorporated. There are so many things if they start to remake it. I'm slightly ready to get pissed off that they're talking about a sequel to The Labyrinth, which is like, no, love The Labyrinth, no. So they're doing that. But if they start fucking with things like, you know, Back to the Future or The Goonies and this, I'm like, fuck no.
Yeah.
Just make stuff that's homage to it. Don't remake The Goonies. Make Stranger Things, which is fucking awesome because it is The Goonies in the modern day.
Yeah.
So, or, you know.
What's your take on the new Ghostbusters?
I'm really excited. I'm excited by the fair. I mean, I felt really bad that the girls got such a hard time by sort of vitriolic. It was like, it shouldn't be done and stuff like that. But I like the fact that it is more like a direct sequel now, set sometimes.
They should have done that from the start. They should have paid homage, but do something new. Like, they found the equipment. Let's start. I don't know, something that didn't. What's that? Just dismissed.
Reboot versus remake, isn't it? Is it remake is pretending the original didn't exist. Reboot is you know, knowing the other one existed, but you know, paying homage to it but carrying on. So
yeah, I would prefer that. So,
yeah, likewise. And I think the thing that pissed me off even more about that one, as much as I thought it was, again, Chris Hemsworth was very reliable comedically in it and things like that, but the thing that frustrated me is they tried to pay homage by having the original cast back in, and Bill Murray playing the Walter Peck-like dickhead in it just really offended me. It really upset me, and I don't know why. It's just because I love the original so much. But no, this one looks really good. It's got a good cast. It's filmed more like it, and yeah, there's lots of little links to the fact that it looks like this could be Egon's grandkids or whatever and stuff. So yeah, it looks amazing. So
yeah, I guess we'll get the second trailer to that closer to the end of the year, because it comes out next year, right?
Yeah, it comes out next year now, yeah.
Okay, right, yeah.
I don't think anything's coming out this year.
This year's been cancelled, guys.
We might get Bond in November if we're really lucky, for the 17 people sitting 4 miles away from each other from the cinema.
Well, actually, the way the Odeon that I go to now, because they have their seats are like more like couches now, and the space between each other is more or less 6 feet apart. So I think problem solved. Boom.
That's all right. I'm going to enjoy going to the one. I'm going to sit down, and then when people come in looking to see if they're going to sit there, I'm just going to be coughing the whole time. I'll have loads of leg room. It's like, no, I'm fine, honestly. The fever's only come on today, but no, fine, sit down.
That's one way to give yourself some space, yeah.
Indeed.
What were we talking about? We went into Ghostbusters. What's next?
What's next? Rick and Morty's main writer, Jeff Loveness. He's a writer and co-producer of Rick and Morty. He's been hired to write the script for the new Ant-Man.
Oh yeah, we did. We talked about this, but it didn't get onto the last podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
I like that guy as a writer. He's done live action before. I don't know. It might be a mixed bag for most people, because Rick and Morty is a hard sell for people that aren't. It really it's one. Rick and Morty is very weird. It's also very moralistic in a really twisted sense.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's very hard to explain Rick and Morty to anyone. But
I really love Rick and Morty, and it took me. I watched the first episode and 2, and I was like, I'm not convinced, and then I stuck with it, and it's like, this is genius, and it was so clever how they did it, and I think. I mean, Marvel have made some very daring choices with directors before. You know, I mean, Taiki You know, you wouldn't have thought, let's give this guy a Marvel movie, and it's the best. You know, it's the best four by far.
It's the best four.
And so, and I'm really looking forward to Love and Thunder. So it's like, and you know, and again, the Nolans weren't. Not the Nolan, so the Russo brothers weren't absolutely massive and known for doing stuff, and they've been like the backbone of the last few major blockbusters. So it's like they do take chances on people, but they seem to be very good as talent scouts at Disney. Kevin Feige and they seem to be very good at going, this will work. And the Ant-Man movies are quite bizarre and out there in tone anyway. So
I think that's more Edgar Wright's kind of his fingerprints all over the Ant-Man. In terms of the comedy, anyway.
Yeah. Well, definitely with the Thomas the Tank. That was that couldn't be anything more Edgar Wright right there, man.
Well, that's the thing, is you don't know how much was a hangover from the Edgar Wright stuff. I know that Thomas was one of his ideas, but obviously it becomes like, when half these blockbusters were started by such and such, and then he has to stop, and then Joss Whedon stepped in, and then all this is going on, and Dexter Fletcher's finishing off. So it's hard to say, how much is this, how much is redone.
The interesting thing about Ant-Man was that was the Marvel movie that I actually thought would fail because of the behind the scenes. And it worked mainly because you had a producer that knew his shit about the IP. You know what I mean? Kevin Feige knows these characters. He's not someone where it's just a day job where it's like, cool, well, like how they run things at Warner Brothers. You know what I mean? Like, let's just make it happen. Those guys know how to make a good movie or know how to make a movie, but, Ant-Man was in like Justice League kind of territory while they were making it, and it came out and they managed to make a very solid pick, man.
Well, I mean, at least some people had heard of him, and no one had heard of the Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm not saying no one, obviously comic book, had, but most people hadn't, and I grew up with comic books, and I hadn't really heard of them. So it's one of those things where I think, I say this every single time I'm on here, and I've been many years in between, but I'll always say the same thing, which is the Marvel movies work because Kevin Feige is behind there as puppet master, linking everything, whereas the Star Wars movies and the DC movies are just making this shit up as they go. There's no driving force. You think with the Star Wars movie that Kathleen Kennedy would be trying to rein them in, but she's not, because Joss Whedon basically went. Not Joss Whedon, J.J. Abrams basically went, I made a film, then Ryan, you came and did something different, so I'm just going to ignore that now and go back to what I was planning originally. And it's just like, that shit wouldn't happen in the MCU. No one would go, we don't like what you did here, so we're just going to pretend that character doesn't exist or whatever. So there's none of that. So however crazy and out there, I don't think they're going to have some of the, they're going to rein it a little bit in from some of the shit in Rick and Morty, which is proper out there. I don't think you're going to have a land of butts or a phone on the phone or something.
That'd be amazing. Have you seen Community, Satch?
No, I've not seen Community. I've heard good things though.
Yeah, so that's one of the shows he wrote, and it's a little out there, but it's a good show. It's a good show. It's I don't know, the closest thing to I don't know. There's nothing like Community, but give it a watch. It's decent. It's a decent show. Chevy Chase is in it.
Okay.
And so is Donald Glover.
I've heard good things about it.
Yeah, it's good. The first season takes a bit to get into, just like Rick and Morty. But once you understand all the characters and what their motivations are, you go with it. It's a good show. It's a good show.
Yeah.
So sorry, what is he directing? No, writing.
Ant-Man 3.
Ant-Man 3. Okay. Let's go to a tangent when we do these.
I think it's West Side Story or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I live in America. Hey, Mike. Okay, I mean America.
They're going to do that. They're definitely going to do it. Satch, what else is on the agenda?
Okay, so MGM have decided to back Ridley Scott's long-awaited Project Gucci, with Lady Gaga in the main role as Gucci's wife, who's being investigated for the murder of Gucci. It's based on his murder, obviously, but this is a detective take on, what happened to him. And Scott's been trying to do this for about 20 years. So, yeah.
20 years ago, was he trying to cast Courtney Love? Oh, too soon. It'd have been good casting. You got to give me that. We need a blonde actress who can also sing. Let's say Courtney Love. So no, it's going to be hard to do this, but you need to get into the sort of mindset of someone who killed their husband. Can you do it? I'll do my best.
Get Nicolas Cage.
Just get Nicolas Cage playing the role, all the roles, every role.
Play all the roles.
Mr. Gucci and Mrs. Gucci.
Be like, Well, I mean, Ridley Scott, powerhouse. He can more or less kind of get what he wants, really. I don't really know much about Gucci. I know bits and pieces. I'm excited to see the film that he finally makes, because he does when he does smaller films like this, they're usually quite good. Did you ever see All the Money in the World?
No,
that's the Kevin Spacey one where they
right at the end. I love that. Right at the end of the film, when they finished filming, the film was about to be released. I think it was like a month before it was released, and all this stuff about Kevin Spacey came out.
Before it was released, Kevin Spacey broke, and then he was like, right, we have a month and a half to reshoot all of Kevin Spacey's stuff with Christopher Plummer, and he did it.
Yeah, he did it. With time to spare. Did they change it all because of the allegations against?
Yeah,
yep,
that's right.
That would have sucked, wasn't it? Especially if you got someone like Kevin Spacey. He was a great actor. He's, what shit he's done is fairly despicable, but he is a great actor, and it's such a shame. But yeah, that's just bad luck, isn't it?
Yeah, that must have sucked for. Everyone involved was like, oh my God, how do we market this?
But also Christopher Plummer, that's quite brave, because he's getting on a bit. You kind of, at this point, I don't think he's ever going to be coming out as a sort of, abuser or something like that. But there's always a chance that in those 40 days he doesn't make it.
Razor thin white.
So yeah, we need to reshoot it with Kirk Douglas quickly as we can.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh man, you must know me by now. If there's a line, I leave it in my rearview mirror. Away you go. If I don't get everyone's podcast banned, seriously.
The line is a dot to me. I can't even see it anymore. It's behind me.
Yeah.
But yeah. I love the turnaround of the film. It's a good film. It's a freaking interesting film. And Christopher Plummer comes across like a Lannister in that. There's a question that he's asked over the phone by a reporter, and they said, "How much money would it take you to save your son?" Said, "Absolutely nothing." And he says it in such a Charles Dance type of way as a Lannister. He's so cold in that film. I think he was a better choice than Kevin Spacey, to be honest. I'm not sure if Kevin Spacey could have played it in that way. But
it sounds good, but it still sounds that both of those would be less. Sorry, I can't even speak now. Inferior casting to Charles Dance. It sounds like you needed Charles Dance in there playing the role then. If you sitting there going, he did it so well because he played it like a Lannister. Just get Lannister in there. Just get Charles Dance in. That guy is acerbically cutting if he wants to be.
Yeah, so. Yeah. It was. Again, nothing wrong with Christopher Plummer, but if you couldn't get him, Charles Dance is your next best bet. But yeah, Gucci, looking forward to it. Which brings, sorry to keep jumping into things, guys, but Ridley Scott has, I think his company Scott Free is creating this thing in London with a new Tottenham Court Road Station is. It's like a media hub. If you're making a film or a short film or anything, it's this big theatre complex, open theatre complex where you can watch films, you can read books, and you can have your film shown there. It looks really nice. Have you been to Tottenham Court Road recently?
Not recently, no.
So I see where they're building that complex. It's going to be huge. Either way, it's going to look nice, and it's set up by his company, and that's an incentive to get filmmakers making films, and even the smaller ones. So that guy, I love Ridley Scott.
I'm a huge fan. But going back full circle, you know, he might have invested in the new generation of younger, smaller filmmakers at the right time. As I said, going back to what I was saying before, I think that those sort of films are going to shine for the next few years because they're lower budget and therefore lower risk, you know.
Yeah.
But I think that's amazing. You know, for someone to do that and go, I'm going to sort of up-to-date creative ways of you know, inspiring the next generation is amazing. So
yeah, that's really good. So Sach, there was what's the film that we're going to talk about? We talked about it right before the podcast. We were starting the podcast.
We talked about a few films, man.
No. It was one film in particular.
Was this about Battle Angel?
Yes, Battle Angel.
So Christoph Waltz was like in an interview for something that he was doing recently, and he was asked about Battle Angel 2, and he was like, well, like any actor that needs work, he was like, yes.
What does Disney say?
Disney probably saying no, but...
Was it a Disney thing?
No, it was Fox.
It was a Fox thing originally, but then they bought...
but then they've got it, yeah.
But the thing
I really like the original. I thought it was very, very good, and it was great fun.
Yeah, because it wasn't a Disney project, it was more or less neck and neck with Captain Marvel. And even though Disney had just bought the company, they weren't going to, move Captain Marvel's release date, and they didn't really care much for Alita. So when it came to marketing Alita towards the end, they didn't really market Alita. They just let it do whatever it did. But Battle Angel made its budget back and a little bit more. Yeah, and a little bit more. Because it had a good word of mouth. So obviously there's people that want to know what the fuck happened next. And if you're people like me that waited like 25 years for this damn movie, because I love the original OVA, I've got some of the manga. Man.
I didn't watch any of the original anime or manga, but or read the comics. But I have friends who were going on about it, and so I went and saw it with a friend who was, talk about it. We both came out and said that was brilliant. He also had a much more in-depth idea of what it was like, but we both really liked it, and I think they did the effects really, really well. Christopher Waltz once again is always fairly dependable, and he was good in this. It's nice that he wasn't the bad guy for once. He's very kind of loving of this kind of Geppetto thing, rather than sort of quietly menacing and fucked up as he normally is.
That's right. Yeah, he was more like a Geppetto character, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I didn't even make that comparison. That's so good. Yeah, it's so obvious now that it was that kind of Geppetto character.
Well, to be honest, he was kind of perfectly cast in that role. I mean, I just thought I want a sequel, like, hands down. It was such a good film. And you know what? Robert Rodriguez in that movie really matured as a filmmaker. I just think he literally sat down with James Cameron and he just wanted to make a film like how James Cameron would, rather than how he would make
one. Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing, because I mean, I know this is going to be sacrilege to you, Sach, and possibly to both of you, but Robert Rodriguez and equally so Quentin Tarantino are two filmmakers. I think they make either great films or shit films. I think I know I'm in the minority. A lot of people are like, no, they're all tears and they're amazing, and Quentin Tarantino's amazing. It's like, I can take or leave him. I think some of his films are great, and I think some of them are just sort of egotistical passion projects where he's stuck so far up his own arse. I just really can't deal with it.
You're talking about his last film, right?
Well, I haven't seen that. No, I haven't actually seen that yet, and I've heard that one's actually quite good. But I mean,
you'll love the ending.
But the whole idea of like, what was it? The one with the death race thing, whatever. Not the death.
Death Proof.
Death Proof.
That was fucking shit. I mean, that was just bad film.
You know what, Greg? You know what?
Yeah,
I agree with you. That's the only Tarantino movie I cannot get into at all. That's the only movie of his where I'm just like, what were you doing? What were you thinking? Like, what?
Yeah, so now you say this, I'm going to really put the cat amongst the pigeons now, because I'm really not a big fan of Kill Bill. I know what I know the cinema he's doing it and stuff like that. It just comes across as like, you know, when they said, I was writing it, you know, when I was working in a video store, and it's like, it looks like a film that's been written by someone who works in a video store. whereas stuff like Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs and things like that are fucking masterpieces. But yeah, I just found it style over substance, and yeah, it was just cheesy and corny and just like, no.
Wow.
I know. I told you my opinion will sometimes be in the minority. And yeah, I'd argue that Inglourious Bastards is a better film than the Kill Bills, honestly.
No, I see your point. I get that. I get that totally. Kill Bill's like almost like a mishmash of lots of, well, it is a mishmash of different genres.
He's stolen from.
Yeah.
He steals shots, man. He doesn't just get influenced. He's the biggest fucking thief in cinema. No wonder he worked at a video box. I'm literally going to take this, and I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take this, and what have you. And as for Rodriguez, again, I like some of his stuff. I mean, some of the original Disraeli and stuff, amazing and stuff like that. But the fucking From Dusk Till Dawn, it's like, that is two awesome films that have just been he made separately and then put them together. It's like an amazing road movie and then this weird fucked up vampire thing. And it's like he shot two films and run out of budget and goes, we'll just sandwich them together and hope no one notices. It's just like, what fucking movie is that?
Do you know what? When I watched that as a kid, everyone at school was talking about this. Oh, have you seen this film? Have you seen this film? So, and everyone was trying to spoil the twist. I said, no, I need to watch it. And then it's quite an adolescent film. It's because it starts off like a Tarantino film at the beginning, and it turns into a pulp 1970s B movie. In the middle is
Also, Tarantino should never be in films ever. He's a shite actor. He's awful. The only thing I like about From Dusk Till Dawn is, I kid you not, and this is true, the Dusk Till Dawn existing is the reason that my snake has been in a porn movie. And that is not a euphemism. I used to have a snake, and a friend of mine who was involved with, not porn movie, who was involved with redoing, I think it was like Fiesta or Razzle, and trying to make it much more like Playboy. He said, we're doing a From Dusk Till Dawn show. Can we borrow your snake for that? And I'm like, I haven't got a boa. I've got like a large corn snake. And they're like, that'll do. And I remember telling my partner at the time, and she's like, no way. I am not letting a porn star handle our snake. What if it gets lost? And I said, well, I can't imagine it's going to get lost. They're going to go, we've lost your snake. Well, I say we've lost it. We know where it is. We just can't get it out. And she's like, no. But we talked around because it just happened that this person who was the porn star also happened to be studying a BA in exotic animal handling. Because that's what you do. I'll get my snatch out when I'm not handling exotic animals to be an exotic vet. So she was great with the snake, and my partner at the time drew the line at me being invited down to the shoot. She's like, nope, you are not hanging around with porn stars all day.
What?
What a bad sport. So my snake has been in a porn magazine. That's a genuine thing.
I remember
because of that film. And we digress.
From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yes.
What actual film were we talking about? Battle Angel.
Yeah. That was one of Rodriguez's, or one of his best. That was brilliant. I really did enjoy that. And as you said, I think it's because he didn't go to Rodriguez there. It's kind of like the Feige thing we were saying, where they take the quirkiness of some of these amazing but slightly out there filmmakers and make a good movie under sort of supervision and guidance. So
yeah. It was also the first time he actually hired a DOP, because usually he's his own DOP. He just grabs a camera and
does
shoots
everything.
But with
and they're
this,
like, we have a budget now,
Yeah.
Robert. You don't have to do it all yourself. I'm
Well,
going to
no,
write the theme tune, sing the theme tune. No, we've got people who can do that.
Yeah, that was just the thing. Because he wanted it to look and feel like a James Cameron film, he hired Bill Pope, who was James Cameron's DOP on Terminator 2, The Abyss, Titanic. He also did the Matrix trilogy and Spider-Man trilogy, and all of Sam Raimi's films, Evil Dead 2. Yeah. Bill Pope came on board. He did he was DOP on that film. So there were bits that really did look and feel like a James Cameron movie, especially when Zapan is walking about and looking for Hugo, and all the shots are totally lifted from Terminator 1. When he's in the bar, like scouting around for Sarah Connor and stuff. And it was just kind of like, it had little moments like that. It was like, okay, that's from Terminator 2. And then when she goes into the spaceship, she looks up and it's literally the same shot as Kate Winslet coming when she's in the water and she's looking around, like she submerges and stuff, some water from Titanic and stuff. So there was a lot of like little homages and stuff, and it was done the exact same style, the exact same lighting as well as those previous other films. And I was like, oh, that's a good thing. But I thought I was the only one that got that in the audience. So, but I didn't
see any of that. But it didn't look like a Rodriguez film.
Yeah, that's right.
It looked like someone else's film.
Yeah, because he would have had like quick cuts and Danny
if you didn't know, there'd be no way you'd know that was a Rodriguez film.
Yeah,
but he's done a good job.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's pretty bad that we're saying he's done a good job because it doesn't look like one of his films. That's quite.
That's not what we mean, Rodriguez.
God damn it! Planet Terror is a masterpiece.
Wow.
What was the comic book film he did?
Comic book film? Oh, Sin City.
Sin City. See, that looks phenomenal.
That is from the first one. The first one, not so much the second one.
I don't mind the second one.
Again, I liked it. Still a little bit style over substance, and it doesn't help that it's got what's that British actor in it?
Clive
Owen.
Yeah, and he can't act his way out of a wet paper bag. I fucking hate him in everything. He's so bad. He was almost passable in Children of Men because he said fuck all almost. But it's like, it's just a bad actor. And it's just like he's reading the lines. But even when Marlon Brando used to do it, at least he had the acting chops to pull it off. But it's just like, he's so bad. It was cringeworthy. But
Marlon Brando was a character, man. He did not give a fuck.
He didn't give a fuck at all. Do you know why? I mean, he ended up suing them because they used his likeness about his thing. But do you know why he didn't come back for Superman 2?
Because they wouldn't pay him?
No, because he's decided that he wanted to do it as a talking suitcase. He's decided that retrospectively that Superman's dad would be a talking suitcase.
That's not actually true, Greg. He did come back for Superman 2 because they filmed them back to back. What happened was Richard Donner got fired because the Salkinds didn't want him for the second movie, even though he shot like 80% of it. So when they released the first movie, because what you got to understand, when Lois Lane dies and he reverses the world backwards, that was supposed to be the end of Superman 2 when he reversed the world backwards. But because they hadn't figured out and spent most of the money on trying to make the man fly, because they didn't really know how to do that, they then took the ending of 1, put it on 2, had her die, and then whatever happened with 2, they just fix it later. And Donna thought he'd be back for that, but they fired him, even though the film was a hit. So because it was to do with budget, they ran out of budget, and then they went to Warner's for more money. Well, for money, because Warner's didn't own the IP at the time. They bought it from DC Comics, and then a year later, Yeah, a year later, DC, Warner Brothers bought DC, but they didn't own the Superman rights. So they came in, they gave them more money, they finished a movie, it became a hit, Richard Donner got fired, and then the Salkinds hired Richard Lester, who they worked with on the Three Musketeer movies, and he came in for Superman 2. He put in the Paris sequence, he redid the whole ending.
That Paris sequence is pretty good.
Marlon Brando turned around and he says, "You cannot use my footage for Superman 2. I refuse to, because I'm going to stick by Richard Donner, who took me on board for these two films, and I think it's despicable that you fired him." So,
which is fair enough. But Marlon Brando, I think originally, I might be mistaking Superman 1. I think they had to convince him to not do it as a talking suitcase.
Oh yeah, they did. If you look at
then he refused to wear any trousers for it because he didn't want to be shot from there.
Correct. Yeah.
And like everything, he read his lines. Just like going back to like the Godfather days, where Robert Duvall's wearing all the lines that Marlon Brando's speaking and stuff. It's like,
I tell you what,
he just doesn't give a shit. We're not even into the Island of Dr. Moreau territory, where he just really that film's a fucking travesty, and that's hilarious.
I'm going to tell you something, Greg. Have you seen the Superman 2, the Richard Donner's cut? You can actually.
I haven't, no.
Okay, so this is really cool because 80% of the movie had already been shot. The only thing they really needed to reshoot was the fight sequences between the Kryptonians and stuff, and various other inserts. So what happened was 25 years later, while they were doing Superman Returns, the editor of Superman Returns, Warner's wanted to do something special for Superman because it was coming up to like an anniversary kind of thing. They decided, with Richard Donner's blessing, to do Superman 2 the way he intended. So they went back to the vault. They re-edited the whole entire movie. Yeah, he does turn the world backwards again, but that's how it was originally intended. But they literally, there's another cut of Superman 2, which is a completely different film with the Brando footage put in. And I'm not going to say what scene he's specifically there for, but when you watch it and you watch the original cut, you're like, no, this should have happened. And the tone of the film is the same tone as the original film. And it's more like Superman Part 2 rather than Superman 2. It's like both films are one story.
Thing is, I like the film. I like Superman 1 and 2. I had a real fondness, even though people hated it, I had a real fondness for the Richard Pryor version because I love Richard Pryor.
I grew up with that.
It's only when they bring Nuclear Man into the fourth one that it really goes to shit.
Yeah, that's right.
But the third one was I really enjoyed. You know, it's got the dude from The Man from U.N.C.L.E. It's got Pryor in. I mean, what's not to love, you know? Napoleon Solo and the dude from Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor. Plus, when that girl turned into that weird Terrorhawks fucking robot thing, that used to terrify the shit out of me as a kid.
Really scared me as a kid. Oh my gosh. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Fucking hate, that was awful.
I used to have to fast forward that as a kid. Oh no, I don't want to see it.
No, it's better.
So, sorry, what were we backing up? What were we talking about?
West Side Story.
We weren't talking about Battle Angel, but when we just took
that was about an hour ago.
We took a big, long course into Superman.
Tangent.
Yes.
Tangent.
Yes.
Is there any other news, Satch?
No, that's it.
Oh, right. Okay. All right, then. Guys, I'm going to end it there. Purely because it took me several hours to get this up and running, and I'm going to try and put this up tonight if I can. Guys, thank you for joining us. Is there anything you want to talk about? Is there anything you want to discuss?
Not really. I guess all the movie shit's all been put on hold, isn't it? Everything's kind of been paused for a while. So yeah,
it's kind of scarce. Yeah. Satch, anything else that's hovering?
No, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Okay. All right then. Well, Greg, thanks for joining in this podcast. I'm sorry that was a bit of a sound catastrophe, but I've got everything set up now, so this setup seems to work very well, apart from the feedback that I hear about myself. But yeah, thanks again, Greg and Sach. It's been great. Thank you, audience, for listening. If there is an audience for listening, stay safe, and we'll see you again next time.